Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm the potato with hair, and today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in October. So, as far as reading months go, this was not the worst reading month I've ever had, but it also was not the best month ever. Admittedly, I only read one book off of my TBR, but you know what? It wasn't even really a TBR. It was just things that I thought I might read in October. And with might, there's some uncertainty, you know? Like, I just didn't fucking read it, let's be real. Let's start with the first book. And you know what, to be honest, not even all of these were books. Most of them were novellas, because I hate myself. The Gentleman's Guide to Getting Lucky by Mackenzie Lee. This was a novella that you get if you buy the Lady's Guide to something piracy bullshit. I don't fucking know. Okay, the novella wasn't terrible. It was about Monty and Percy and their, like, you know, sexual misadventures. And as someone who didn't absolutely love the first book, like the full-length book between Monty and Percy or whatever, the novella was just kind of okay. I really wanted to see character development and, like, some getting lucky, but we didn't really get a lot of that. We got a lot of mishaps. You wouldn't think that it could be possible to have that many mishaps in however many pages this novella was, but there were a lot. The main issue there, Monty seemed to have issues getting intimate with someone, like actually intimate. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's banged people before, but he's never been in love or whatever, and so that was the main issue keeping him from consummating his relationship. And I'm not saying that anyone should rush into these things, like whatever. But after a while, I can only take so much. And not to spoil anything, but they never end up banging. Why'd I read this? If you enjoyed Gentleman's Guide a lot, you'll probably like it. I didn't hate it, but to me it wasn't like groundbreaking, the best male young adult book that I've read. So if you like that one, you will like the novella. I just personally was like, it didn't add that much and they don't end up banging. Can we not talk about the fact that I look like I have the plague? My hair's kind of greasy. And these tendrils, I look like I got electrocuted a little bit. I had to go to work, had to do something, so I just put a fucking bow in it and we just called it a goddamn day. The next novella I read, I also gave 3 stars, and it was The Law Sisters by Holly Black. I don't think I've seen anyone give this less than 4 stars. Here's the thing, maybe I'm just not meant to read novellas. In fact, I think that's probably the case, but it should have really just been called The Dumb Bitch Sister, and then I would have known everything that I needed to know, and I wouldn't have had to read it. Like, I read it quickly, it wasn't bad, it was compelling, it was well written, whatever. I just felt it was unnecessary. I've already read The Wicked King, and this is supposed to bridge the gap between the 2 books, and for me it really didn't do that. It provided no additional information that I needed besides the fact that, like, we know Taryn's a dumb fucking bitch, and, like, we know she betrayed Jude, but beyond that, what is there? You know, not a whole lot. And, like, Taryn trying to justify her betrayal, my reaction to it was just that gif of that white dude blinking, you know? You can't justify your actions. You just disappoint me. Now getting into some of the full-length things that I read. The first thing I read was Dirty Headlines by LJ Shen. I have a complicated relationship with my girl LJ. I like her Sinners of Saint series, pretty good. If you're looking for something like smutty, new adulty. It's like problematic, but like not super problematic. Like the guys are douchebags. I'll just say that. She writes a really good douchebag, but not so much here. This shit was kind of abhorrent. It's like if you took The Newsroom and Gossip Girl, just put them together. That's what this book would be. Essentially, a poor girl with a sick dad ends up working in a newsroom with, like, the head of the news station, I guess. He's not, like, an anchor, but he just does news shit. I don't really know how the hierarchy works, but anyway, they work together. And, oh, surprise, they've already had sex, so, like, there's tension or whatever. My main issue with this, here's the thing. I don't mind anything really in romance if it's well done, and when I say anything I mean like cheating and celibacy issues, I don't know, whatever. It doesn't typically bother me, but this particular case did because the guy was just so gross. He was just an asshole the entire time. He had a fiance who he was trying to, like, gain more ownership of his, like, parents' news station by marrying this bitch. And I'm like, if you're so clever, which he was supposed to be clever, couldn't you find a better way to do that if you really hate this woman? It wasn't enough to really justify his cheating to me. It wasn't good. All of that being said, I'm willing to bump things up a star if the ending is satisfying to me. And here is what I like. I just crack like a runny egg when there's a grand romantic gesture, you know? If we've got like a proposal, instant wealth, she goes from being super poor to being super rich, or we've got like kids in the picture. I'm just a sucker for that. I know that that's not everybody's ideal romance or whatever, and that's not how every romance needs to end, but when romances end that way, there's a good likelihood that I'm gonna rate the book higher than it really deserves. Anyway, I gave this 2 stars. I wouldn't recommend it. Now, this next one might be a little controversial. The only book that I read for my October TBR was one that I was highly anticipating, and I was highly anticipating me liking it, but I don't fucking like anything. So, I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab, and I have a bone to pick with V.E. Schwab. I want to like her books, I really do. I just fucking hate her characters. Like, with a fiery passion, I never give a shit what happens to them. They could die, they could choke, I wouldn't care. Unfortunately, that was still the case here. Give you a little synopsis on what Vicious is about, not that you don't already know what it's about. It's about 2 psychopaths playing God. We've got Victor, we've got Eli, and they feel like they can cheat death by killing themselves and getting superpowers. But after they both get these superpowers, Victor's cool with it. He just wants to live his goddamn life. And Eli, who is like religious, although we're not really sure like what kind of religious he is, feels like these powers are actually bad, and he feels like a part of his soul is missing, and he feels like it's his God-given duty to go and kill other people who have gained these superpowers, even if they didn't like seek the superpowers. A series of unfortunate events happens. Victor ends up in the chokey, and he gets out 10 years later and is like, I'm gonna fucking kill you, Eli. Here's the thing, my enjoyment of a book pretty much solely hinges on whether or not the characters are likable. I don't even mean likable. There's some fucking hate-worthy characters, like Jude and Cardon in The Cruel Prince, who I genuinely sympathize with because of the way that they are characterized and the struggles that they've been through. I can't stand V.E. Schwab's characters because to me, they are never fully fleshed out. They're flat, one-dimensional, and I'm frustrated too because we get flashbacks, and I figured in the flashbacks I would understand Victor and Eli's motivations more and really feel like, wow, I totally am rooting for one character or the other. I like to feel for the characters that I'm reading about, and I didn't give a shit. Like, you could light both of these characters on fire and I would not care. I will give you that Schwab, she's really good at world building and plot, really excellent, and I do think she stands apart from a lot of both young adult and adult authors in that way. And I will say I liked this one better than her other works simply because she is actually bringing up interesting questions of morality. You know, because we have 2 perspectives, like the more like the vaguely religious perspective. There's just like morally great characters in general, and I found that interesting. I had a hard time reading this one simply because I was like, do I compare it to Schwab's other books? Because in that case it's a 4-star book, but if I compare it just based on my enjoyment and overall whether or not I think this book was like excellent, to me it was really just a 3-star. The next book that I read this month was Pisces Hook's Taurus by Anita Sunday. This one was good. It broke me out of my slump. It was a male-male romance about Zane and Beckett. Zane is a high school dropout. He is a comic book artist and has just like a flair for life, a zest, if you will. And Beckett's kind of like the uptight college professor type. There's sort of an age gap element too to this story. Zane's 23, Beckett's like 30, I think. And in direct contrast with Vicious, I actually cared about these characters. It's a very, very character-driven romance. There's not a lot of like crazy twisty plot to it. It's just a very quiet romance about like, falling in love with someone and falling in love with routine, which to me I think isn't present that often in romance. We get this kind of like whirlwind romance, and we don't really end up seeing how the characters carry on through life, because to me, one of the best things about being in love and like being in a relationship is getting to wake up next to that person every day and the routine of knowing them so well and getting to do things with your best friend. Like, that is the best part about romance. It's not about those gooey fireworks feelings at the beginning. I really liked that because that's kind of what this book was about. It's kind of like finding security and finding people that you can trust and rely on. So I really liked it. It was a slow burn, which was also nice. I like a good slow burn if it's done well. Only thing I didn't like about it was that Zane was a high school dropout, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not an elitist about education, but he didn't know the difference between the words mahogany and monogamy. It just seems unlikely to me too that a college professor who's into literature and is pretty intellectual would be attracted to someone whose intellect is vastly different. I'm not saying one's better than the other, I'm just saying it stretches the bounds of belief a little bit. But I gave it a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't read Anita Sunday, I would give it a try. The first book is without a doubt the best, but in general, I think this series is really, really fun. And then the next book I read was strangely similar. It was Dane by Kay Webster. I feel bad supporting Kay Webster in any fucking way because she's problematic. There's an age gap, and one of the guys is 47, the other one's I think like 25, and they end up working at the same law firm. They've already like consummated their relationship before they even find out that they're working together. It was only 125 pages. It was okay. I wasn't that impressed because most of it was just sex, which like can be fine for sure. I think she was trying too hard to make it something that it wasn't. She was trying too hard to infuse a relationship and authenticity to the book that just wasn't there. It ended up reading a little bit fetishistic to me. There was a lot of like woman hate. Like the main character's name is Dane. Wow, surprising, the book's called Dane. I just like, I understand he divorced his wife, it made sense, but it was too much like, my wife's a fucking bitch, that's why I divorced her. It would have been nicer if he could just like discover her sexuality and like that is why he had to divorce his wife. It wasn't like that. We had to have some sort of like sordid reason why he couldn't be with a woman anymore, and it just rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. And like I said, some of the things that were said and just like the way that the book was formatted, a little fetishistic, so I'm gonna give this one 2 stars. The last book that I finished this month was How to Make a Wish by Ashley Herring Blake. This was definitely my favorite book that I read all month. I gave this one 4 stars. It was certified sad gay shit. It was about a girl with an alcoholic mother named Grace and a girl with a dead mother named Eva. It was just a really interesting book about the relationship between mother and daughter and how isolating it can be when the only person you have in your life lets you down. It was really character driven, very atmospheric. I genuinely enjoyed every bit of it. We've got, you know, these 2 girls falling in love, and the way that Grace describes her emotions and like the physical way that she's feeling when she is describing her crush makes sense. I think too often when authors are trying to describe emotions, it draws me farther away from the character's emotion. There were fireworks in her eyes, or I don't know, it just doesn't usually make sense or connect with me, but I feel like she did such a good job describing just like the visceral reaction when you really, really want something or really, really want someone. I would recommend this. I don't feel like I read a lot of female books, and I want to read more. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below of like your favorite female relationships and books. And then the last book, I already put this on the list because I was like, I'll be done with this by the time I do my wrap up. But I'm gonna insert a tweet right here and you'll understand why I haven't finished this book. It's Fall by Kristen Callahan. I am enjoying it. I've been waiting on this book for nearly a year, and I don't usually have like anticipated reads, but I was waiting for this for so long because I enjoyed the second book in the series called Manage so much. They're not that cheesy. There's a lot of cheesy rockstar romances out there. These are not that bad. I like how she made these 2 in particular so complementary. I feel like a lot of the times when I'm reading romances, and I don't know if y'all are like this, but like I wonder beyond the physical why people are together. Like, yeah, you could have a cool banter and like the sex might be great, but like what is going to keep you together long term? That can only get you so far. In this book, they have really similar tastes in food, very similar perspectives on life. They have similar interests, and I just like totally understand why they would get along. Like if they were real life people, I'd be like, y'all are perfect for each other. So I'm really liking it in that regard. I will say, I think I was hoping for better representation. I will say trigger warning because the male character attempted suicide in the beginning of the first book in this series. I don't feel like it's been adequately addressed, the fact that he has this past. I mean, it's mentioned a couple times that he's sad and he's going to therapy, but I wish it had been more of an element to the story because this is something that's going to affect your relationships and how you interact with people typically. So I would have liked if it had been incorporated a little bit more. That's it, guys. That's the last book that I read this month. I think total that's 8 or 9 books, so more than last month, still not great. I guess I'm getting to kind of a new normal at this point because I booktube now and I don't have as much time to just like sit down and read, but I can't say that I'm that upset about it. I've been reading Twilight, I've been like doing all kinds of other shit, so tell me what you guys read this month. Also, like I said, recommend me your favorite female romances, or I guess books with female relationships, because I want to incorporate more of those into my reading. Hope you guys have a lovely Tuesday. Love you so much.